2 encampments in 12 hours. That anybody would say that this kind of safety hazard is okay is completely ridiculous. These encampments are not safe for the people living at them. They are not safe for the overarching neighborhood. We need to put a stop to this period. The vast majority of people in this city recognize how unbelievably unsafe these encampments are. They recognize how problematic they are to neighborhoods. They recognize that not just by the way encampments are illegal under city law, but murder is illegal, stealing is illegal, the kind of violence that we're seeing is illegal, and by the way, drug trafficking is also illegal. These encampments are in place not because of a lack of shelter. They're not in place because of a lack of housing. These encampments are in place, let's be very clear, because of fentanyl. This is a drug-related issue. People need to start being completely honest with where this is coming from. This is illegal drugs coming into our communities, wreaking havoc on neighborhoods, and it needs to stop. 2 homicides, 12 hours, 2 different encampments. This is not a coincidence, by the way, and if you look at the stats, a huge portion of the homicides that have taken place in the 3rd precinct are right next to encampments themselves. So we need to start being honest about this. Our neighbors here are crying out for help. I've heard from more than a few people, far too many people, that are saying, you know what, we need to make sure that these encampments stay in place. This is compassionate. It's not compassionate. It is not compassionate to allow a person to slowly kill themselves with a needle in their arms. That is not compassionate. It's not compassionate to these neighbors that can't send their kids out on a sidewalk without the fear of stepping on a needle or getting hit by a gunshot. That's not compassion. At a certain point, we need to recognize what we're dealing with here, which is a very serious drug called fentanyl that is many, many times more powerful than anything that we've ever seen before. It's cheap, it's readily available, and once it hits your system, it has a kind of impact on your brain where you largely don't have control over it. That's what we're dealing with here. And so let's be purely and completely honest. We at this city are very much about a public health oriented approach. We believe in providing people with deeply affordable housing. We believe in providing people with low or no barrier housing. And by the way, we've been providing 6.5 times the amount of deeply affordable housing that we were before. We've added new shelters to our system. We believe in an upstream approach to make sure that people get the care to prevent addiction and the treatment to heal from it. And at the same time, we can't make it convenient to set up these encampments. And we've got to make sure that we're doing the upstream work as well to prevent both these encampments as well as the drug trade, which is causing them to begin with. And so we've given very clear direction to our city departments, to our police department. Our chief is entirely on board here to make sure that it will not be convenient to set up these encampments, and we're going to do everything that we can. But also, we're going to make sure we're going to go after some of the perpetrators of the drug trafficking, the dealers that are putting this horrible substance in people's system that, by the way, kills them knowingly. We're going to make sure we're going after the people as well that are doing more of some of this upstream trafficking that brings these drugs here to begin with that are so problematic. So yeah, if we're talking about fentanyl, we want no part of it. If we're talking about the drug traffickers that are coming into our city to provide, that are the cause of so many problems, yeah, we're going after that as well. This is not acceptable. There are moms and kids right nearby where the shooting took place. If any of us are saying that that is okay, I want nothing to do. So our chief is going to give the rundown on this latest shooting. Again, a second one in 12 hours, 2 different encampments. But this has got to be unacceptable. Everyone should be speaking with one accord. I can't tell you how many letters I've received from residents saying that this is unacceptable. I also can point to a few letters from council members in the past saying to hold off on the closing of an encampment. This is why we can't tolerate this. This is why. It's got nothing to do with a lack of shelter. It has to do with we can't have this violence in our neighborhoods. We can't have it in our city. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. About 4:15 this afternoon, Minneapolis police received a 911 call for a shooting on the 2500 block of Bloomington Avenue. Officers responded to the alleyway behind me and found a male in his 30s with one gunshot wound to the head. Police officers began CPR until EMS arrived on the scene, and the male was pronounced deceased at the scene. The investigation is obviously in its preliminary stages. However, it appears that a group of individuals was walking by this male while he was standing near a garage in the alleyway, and one individual walked up to him very, very coldly and simply shot him in the head. That individual then walked off with the group of others that were there. As the mayor said, this is the second murder within 12 hours at an encampment in this neighborhood. After we were just at a community meeting last night at the American Indian Center, hearing from residents about how frustrated they are with the conditions around encampments in this neighborhood. Um, the police department wants people to know that we hear your concerns. Um, you know, I cannot release much information, but I can assure the community that we are on it. These two murders today, we are pursuing both of those investigations very diligently. But again, it is frustrating because, as I said this morning, it is preventable. Um, there was at least one shooting that I can remember in the last week and a half on this block associated with this encampment, and then just numerous crimes within about 500 feet of each of these encampments. We looked at within the 3rd precinct, which is where we are in South Minneapolis, about 13% of all our violent crime this year is within 500 feet, within about a block of an encampment. 19% of all of our gun violence in the city is within 500 feet of an encampment. 19% of all the gun violence in the 3rd precinct is within 500 feet of an encampment. About 22% of all shooting victims, and that's prior to this week, so it's likely even higher. As of last week, 22% of all shooting victims in the 3rd precinct were within 500 feet of an encampment. And what we hear on this block is the same story we heard this morning, which was the same story we heard last night at community meetings. People have had enough with outsiders coming in and providing resources to enable what goes on here at this encampment. You can walk around on people's property in the alleyway. You can see, needles everywhere near the encampment. And this morning, it's sad as I got kids as young as 4 years old coming out on a murder scene to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have, at the end of school today, a couple blocks away, we got kids coming home to see this same thing. Um, and it's just extremely tragic and it's frustrating. We believe the victim in this case is 30 years old, in his 30s. Um, I cannot comment further around suspect information other than to assure the community that we are on it. And we have not ruled out a connection from the violence this morning to the violence this afternoon here. So,
How does this get set up? I mean, how do you, when an encampment starts, all of a sudden, why don't you get a call to 911? Why are you taking this down? Why is this allowed to still be built up here? I don't quite track this.
yeah. Do you want to talk about the process, or do you want me to?
You can start on
Okay. So the short end of it is, and one, before I even say that, I do want to encourage people to continue to call 911, to continue to call 311, because oftentimes the problem becomes, people almost give up. That they come to accept what they should not accept. You don't have to accept the conditions that are here. So I encourage people to continue to report that, and I encourage people to have information specific to this one or the shooting this morning to report that information. But long story short, it is a somewhat complicated process in place around property, who owns the property, whether it's the city's property or private property. And then I'll let the mayor jump in because it's a larger city enterprise operation to clear it.
But Mayor, when that property, when all of a sudden the tents come popping up, I mean, why aren't you in it 10 hours earlier than this? I don't track this.
So there's two pieces. One, we always lead with a public health oriented approach, which means that we want to give people the opportunity to be connected to shelter, to services, and to housing. And so we've got a homeless response team that will go out to the encampment, whether it's through the city or through the county, to make sure that people have that connection to the services that they need. I said before, though, that this was not about a lack of shelter, and even in some cases, or about a lack of housing. The truth is, for a significant group of individuals that are experiencing unsheltered homelessness, they're not accepting the service. They've been offered. In many cases, they've been offered multiple times, and they won't go to the shelter itself. Now, there's another underlying issue as well, which all levels of government need to be doing a better job of, and that's a recognition that it shouldn't matter whose property the encampment is on. We all need to be working together. The mother over in the house just over there doesn't care whether it's the county land or it's the city land or it's MnDOT land. She doesn't care. She cares that she can't send her kid outside and know that he's going to be safe. That's the problem. And so we all need to be working together. For a while there, a whole lot of it was just on Minneapolis, and sure, I've taken my share of barbs on that front. But we've been clear from the very beginning. These encampments are not safe. They're not safe for the people in them. They're not safe for their surrounding neighborhood. That was true then. That continues to be true now. Also, oftentimes when we've tried to close them down, our police officers, our public works crews have experienced quite a bit of pushback, and in some cases threats. Not from the people in the homeless encampment, from other people that are coming from the outside that want to prevent the encampment from being closed. And so they've made it significantly more difficult. Again, we've had a number of people advocate against the closure of these encampments. It can't be so convenient to set up these areas that, yes, do become open-air drug markets. It's not safe.
And so in the near term, in the next 24, 48, 72 hours, what specifically can you do to address what is becoming a really urgent problem?
Well, there's obviously a number of encampments, around the city, around even just this neighborhood, the 3rd Precinct. I can tell you this much: we have a crime scene here. We are not leaving until this is gone. Other processes at play that determine when to close encampments in different places. This is ridiculous that there's a second murder at an encampment in this neighborhood a day after we were just talking about this with the community, and I'm not going to wait until someone else gets killed down here. We're not leaving until this thing is gone. But the larger issue, again, and is the same frustration of residents in this neighborhood. We close one here, it pops up somewhere else over there, and that's been the community's frustration. And as the mayor has said, the police officers do come out, and I've seen it myself. A lot of times they're taking the brunt of it. The residents are scared that live here, that have to deal with it, that have to deal with, in some cases, their dog eating a needle, having to take a needle out of their dog's mouth, people stealing, firewood and other things from their property, dealing with garbage and debris. Oftentimes that's donated by folks from the outside coming here that then gets left on residents' property. So it's something where people are actually scared of. And then we have seen at times when we do come and there's notice given, people will come from the outside to physically try and prevent the city workers from removing the encampment. So, again, we have to look at the reality here.
Yes.
Like the mayor has said, there is clearly evidence of drug use all over the place. These things are, notoriously associated with crime, and it drives up, significant crime, violence in the immediate area for the residents, and we just can't have it. And I can't have people getting killed at these things. When we know these areas are just, they're just conducive to that type of activity.
Chief, does this mean there's going to be heightened police presence around all encampments
Well, we can't have heightened presence at all of them. And again, like I said, the problem continues to be that we clear one out here and it pops up else somewhere else. We're going to work, we're going to work with our partners in the city, but we will do what we can, to try and clear them faster to the extent that we can. But again, it's not solely a law enforcement issue, and it's not something that the police can come here and arrest people and we can think the problem's going to go away. That's not realistic either.
Was the victim, did he live in the area or was he associated with this homeless encampment?
I don't have specifics on the individual. He was in the alley about 4 lots from the encampment and with a group of people that were walking to and from the same vicinity of the encampment. I mean,
when 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 someone refuses help, I only speak because I called 311 once, not too long ago, and I had somebody in a car in front of my house. The woman clearly was having problems. She needed some help. We got the little white van over. They talked to her.
Yeah.
2 days later, the little white van came back again and talked to her again. Each time she refused. What do you do when people say, "Thanks for coming by, but I don't want your help"?
Yeah, and I think a lot of times that is the issue. You have people that are suffering from fentanyl addiction, very highly addictive, very cheap, and it's way too easy to get it onto the streets. And so that is the reason a lot of times people don't want to go into a shelter because they don't want to follow the rules, or they don't want to go. They do have a place to live elsewhere, and they don't want to go there because it interferes with either their habit or people who are involved in drug distribution. Um, so yeah, I mean, on the police's side, unless a crime is being committed, we are not able to take action. It is a matter of trying to work with our partners. That city's homeless outreach was here, trying to encourage people, um, but it's really hard to entice people when they are suffering from such a powerful addiction. And then people are dealing with complicated issues. There's mental health issues that overlap all of this stuff as well.
And what do we know about the group of people who walked up to the victim? Do we know if they were associated with the encampment in any way, or we're still trying to figure that out?
We're still trying to figure out all those specifics, but it's very clear they were coming from that area, to and from, um, and we are laser focused on trying to find the shooter.
All right, folks, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Chief, one more kid. The entire Lake Street business corridor has seen an uptick in crime, and they're asking for more patrols. Jason Chavez is also asking for more patrols in this area. Is there any plan to add more patrols in this area?
We are trying. Um, you know, uh, if anyone thinks that the police officers are not, working day and night doing everything that they possibly can, uh, they are mistaken. We are severely challenged with resources, with sworn personnel, and even with professional staff. And I'm extremely thankful for the people that are here, holding the scene, that were holding the scene, 12, 13 hours ago this morning. And yes, we are trying to do that, and we'll continue to do everything we can. But we do have people working constantly, overtime and mandatory overtime. And we do have people that are focused on trying to spend attention on Lake Street and other areas that we know are very important to community. But it is a challenge because we're trying to triage everything. Yep. Thank you.